So there's something that has been rummaging inside my head about the journey that you take as an animator, as an artist, after 20 plus years of working in the games industry and being a professional and having a lot of fun. It's the concept of the full circle. When you start, you actually think that you have so much more to achieve and you actually want to do so many things, and oh my god, when you become a professional, you are just going to explode. And by the time you actually have enough experience, you realize that you were having fun all along when you started, and that was when it was the most fun. Interesting how those things happen. So I want to take you guys through this because I've been speaking with a few colleagues and a few interviewees that I actually had here in the channel, and it keeps coming up for the last few weeks. So I feel like I need to get it off my chest because I do think that this is important information for all those young animators out there. If you have a sense of perspective right at the beginning of your career, I think your career can flourish much faster and you can be stronger as a person. And I wish I had this information when I first started. So without further ado, let's get started. So, welcome to another video. I hope you're all well. First and foremost, if you are feeling the channel, if you are watching the content and you feel like it's helping you through your journey, through your career, is motivating you, then consider definitely subscribing so you don't miss any of the material, and give it a like because those likes are super important for the YouTube algorithm. I am going to circle back to this full circle idea where I think that now I'm in a place in life right now that I feel very comfortable with the things that I've achieved and the things where I'm going and some of the decisions that I've made, and it's really easy for me to kind of retrospectively look at my life and think about the things that I should have done differently, or the things that were good, the things that are bad. And a lot of the channel here, normally I focus on the things that you shouldn't do and the things that you should do more of. But in this case, I'm going to go the other way. I'm going to talk about the things that are good and that you should cherish a lot, especially as you get started. If you don't have a job just yet, and if you love animation, if you love game development, you're just getting started and you have all the energy inside of you, there's lots of stuff that you can actually cherish right now and take with you, and make sure that you remember the feeling as much as possible because it's unique, only happens once, and it's very important for you to actually kind of be in the moment as much as possible. Now, before I get started with the whole meat and potatoes of the conversation, I'll let's talk about how I was when I was younger and naive in just pursuing the dream. So I mentioned it here in the channel a few times, but I started as wanting to be an illustrator, not an animator, and I actually fell in love with animation through doing a university bachelor's degree in animation, even though I didn't really learn animation, but I learned how special animation was, and through a mentor later on, then I learned how to animate. Now, through the journey, it must have been a good 4 or 5 years that I spent the whole time between learning about animation and falling in love with animation to then getting my first job. I actually felt very much like I was constantly chasing something. I was constantly kind of chasing a dream. Now that I know that I want to be an animator, how can I get there ASAP? And then all my decisions were based off that knowledge, of that idea that I wanted to be an animator in the future. So how can I get there as much as possible? So then you start watching tutorials, you start hearing a lot of advice from other people that have been in the industry perhaps. If you don't know anybody in the industry, then you ask somebody that maybe knows somebody, and sometimes you get a bit of that broken phone situation where they amplify what the message was, or maybe don't give you the message fully, so you kind of okay, so I guess you need to actually have 3 short reels in order to get a job, or something along those lines that are takes you 2 or 3 steps backwards and kind of changes your mind in the worst ways. So through the journey, this is basically what I had. I actually knew exactly one animator when I was actually working on my short reel, mainly because it was not so easy to get a hold of animators. There was no iAnimate, there was no Animation Mentor, there was no schools online that you could easily access, and most universities didn't have any animation degree. So my university, Thames Valley University, which is now called West London University, was one of the first ones to do an animation degree, and this is why we didn't learn much about animation in the end, but I did fall in love with it. And then when I met this one animator, he was a Spanish animator, and he actually told me a little bit about VFX and animating and being a professional animator. And to me, it was the best thing. It was like, wow, like this guy is doing it for a living. He's earning money. How can you do this? It's amazing. So you go from basically knowing nobody to then being like, starstruck because this person actually works in animation, to then personally, my personal journey, I had a personal mentor in Jason Ryan, which I'm absolutely thankful till this day, that then actually, as a professional animator working at DreamWorks, knowing what he was doing, taught me how to actually animate properly and how to think about animation. Now, I eventually got a show reel half more or less put together, and I got a first job after going through a lot of trial and tribulations. I had a lot of companies telling me no, basically saying, it's all right, but no. Basically saying like, it's cute, but you're not quite there. That actually lasted for quite a while, maybe a couple of years at the very least, that I was trying really hard, nothing was happening, and I was about to quit. When I first got my first job, I was genuinely about to quit. I was like, this is not for me. This is not working. I'm working double shifts. I'm actually working during the day and then working at night until 2 a.m. to actually work my animations. And then next day, the same thing. I was exhausted. So I couldn't bear it anymore. All this to say that I was so caught up in the moment of like being broke, of like life being absolutely rubbish, by actually having nothing to my name in terms of savings, about not having family, being alone, living in London, things are busy, finding jobs. I was so caught up in that life, and I was so caught up in trying to make something happen ASAP that I didn't really appreciate how much creativity and freedom you have as an animator when you first get started. And this is something that I want to drive today. When you actually get your first job and you start working for somebody and you get paid and you finally made it, what happens is that from then on, you probably most likely will always work on something that someone else wants you to do instead of working on things that you want to do. And what happens is that you spend all this time in pain because you actually like chasing the dream and trying to come up with cool ideas and stuff like that, that you don't appreciate what you have, and you always look at other people's work and amazing show reels and think, if I could only be that good, that you don't appreciate the moment. So then when you get there and you get to be that good, then all of a sudden you're just a professional and you're just like every other animator in your team because they're all amazing. So you just know that you made it, but it's not like a celebration of like, yes, I finally am that good. It just gradually happens over the years, so you don't really notice it. And then you get to be maybe a lead, you get to be a director, you get to be like, in charge of some teams or whatever it is. And you kind of like level up as you go through your journey, which is great for you personally, career-wise, amazing, money-wise, absolutely amazing, because now you're not just doing all right, now you're actually excelling and doing well, and maybe you can actually get a mortgage for a house and all this other stuff. So it's really, really cool to kind of like, not only just survive, but thrive in your own element in your career and the things that you like to do. But those things are material things. And what happens is, after 20 years of doing this, you start thinking more and more about the beginning. You start thinking more and more about how it was right at the beginning and how much I did not enjoy that. However, I should have enjoyed that much more. It was only at the start, only when you started your career, before you started your career, only when you actually had nobody looking over your shoulder, only when you can actually create anything that is in your mind, that you truly had 100% creative freedom to do anything you wanted. And what happens is, the more experienced you are as a professional, the more you want to go back to that point of like having full creative freedom to do absolutely anything that you want. And this brings me to today, because now I am a company owner. I have a game studio called Proxima. We are working on amazing things. And this is actually the reason, one of the main reasons why I created the studio. It was for me and everybody working with me to have full creative freedom over the things that they actually do, and basically have a lane to run in and basically do the things they want to do, right? We can always inform each other, inspire each other, have that like, feedback session and all that stuff. But the main goal is for us to do things that we want to do together in order to make a better project. The whole idea is that you want to actually get back there as a professional all the time as you go through. Like for me, becoming a lead, it was a little step closer to becoming free and kind of like sharing my ideas and getting into game. Becoming a director was even more free, but I could only use my creative freedom on animation, nothing else, no design or nothing else. And then helping out with design, I became a bit more of a designer, but then you have less of a saying on other things. So you're always giving something away, and the only time that you truly have to create whatever you want is right at the beginning, when you had nobody looking over your shoulder and actually you had to do all the stuff and you had to be the most creative to impress people to get a job, right? So the moral of the story is this: if you are right now in a position where you don't have a job and you're chasing a dream and you're feeling absolutely amazed by what other animators are doing and looking at showreel, especially with the internet as we have it today, because you have so much information at your fingertips and it's so easy to get it, make sure that you don't actually think that the grass is always greener, because a lot of the time it isn't. A lot of the time what you have right now in terms of creativity is the best you're ever going to have, and therefore you should enjoy it, cherish it, and really live in the moment. What's going to happen, most likely, if you're anything like me, when you start having fun with it, when you start being present and actually in the moment and enjoying the work that you do, and you just don't care about what anybody else thinks, you just, this is my animation and I want to make it amazing, and it's going to be amazing because I wanted to make it, and I'm going to enjoy it, and it's going to be amazing. And if other people like it, great, but if they don't, then I'm happy with it, and that's all that matters. Then all of a sudden, when you send that piece to somewhere, other people will absolutely see that, right? That saying about real recognizes real is absolutely 100% true. And when people see that you've done it because you actually enjoyed it and you were in the moment and you had a ball with it, then other people will see that as well, and they will actually want you to go and work for them, and they will want you around as well. So it's basically like a synergetic thing that happens. So the more you are in the moment, the more you are enjoying the work that you do right now, the better it's going to be for you as an artist as you grow. And especially if you don't have a job yet, and if you are on the exciting moment of actually trying to get a job, I know it's hard. I know it takes a long time. Sometimes it feels like it takes forever. And shout out to my friend Dave that now works at Guerrilla Games, because he has one of the most complicated, the most hardest journeys that I've ever heard of. He spent 7 years working on a laptop, animating on a trackpad, and doing an absolutely amazing job. Nobody was giving him a job until finally Creative Assembly, where we worked together, gave him a job. And his stories like this that kind of like give me this perspective that you should enjoy it while you have it, because then when you start working from somebody, then you normally lose it, and you start, the more you work, the more you start going like, is this it? I thought I could actually have creative freedom at some point, and then you chase it, and hopefully at some point you get it, but it takes you a long time, and it takes many years. So enjoy it while you have it, because I know that it's hard and it might feel like it's going to take forever, but right now, while you don't have a job, or maybe you're just getting started, then it's the time for you to actually work at home, do your thing. And then for everybody that is already a professional working right now, then absolutely work on your spare time whenever you can on your own animation scenes, if you're not just yet, because that is basically how you bring that back to the present. And this is what I was doing for most of my time when I was not doing YouTube. Now I have YouTube to express myself, but before then I had that, and it was a lot of fun. So this is how I actually got my creativity juices out as much as I could. I hope this helps you out, and if it does, consider subscribing, commenting, and give it a like. And to everybody that has joined my club in here on YouTube, press the join button down there if you actually want to find out more. Thank you so much. Here's are their names. They're absolutely amazing. And until the next video, stay well, stay safe. Peace.